This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
By the time you're finished listening to this Pepsi Zero Sugar, you'll be 15 seconds closer to kickoff. Stock up now. Bengals game day is so close, you can almost taste it. Bengals watching. Better with Pepsi.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
In fine fettle, sir, and eagerly anticipating one more match, and actually not against a break this time.
Yeah, I think the break is coming at the right time. For not just for us, but I think for everybody. I think you can see it in certain performances. I wouldn't be against City having to play through the break and Arsenal having to play through the break just to see if they could lose a few more games. But I'm happy about the break in general. And I'm also curious to see how England get on with some of the new call-ups. I think Lewis Hall's a really interesting call-up to the England squad. But we are here today to talk about Liverpool against Aston Villa. Now, you pre-season were a little bit of an Aston Villa skeptic with regards to their chances of repeating last season, finishing top four. And yesterday I was looking at their season so far, Karl, and I think you might have been on the ball with this one. So they currently sit sixth. They're level on points with both Chelsea and Arsenal, who are the two teams above them. But that doesn't really tell the story. What tells the story is the games they've played. So they beat West Ham away, and at the time we thought that's a good result, but West Ham have been terrible this season. Then they lose at home to Arsenal. Then they beat Leicester. Then they beat Everton. Then they beat Wolves. They drew away to Ipswich. They drew at home with a dreadful Manchester United team. They beat Fulham away. They drew at home with Bournemouth, which ultimately is fine considering Bournemouth beat Arsenal the week before and then beat City the week after. And then they got walloped by Spurs. So when we look at that, you're looking at 5 wins, 3 draws, 2 defeats. But the fact of it is, they've only played 4 teams in the top half. They've only won one of those games, which was away to Fulham, who are 9th. They drew with Bournemouth, who are 10th. The only 2 games they've had against teams currently in the top 8 are Arsenal and Spurs, and they lost both of them. So their 6th place finish might well be just the result of quite a soft schedule so far. And then you look at their Champions League run, to their credit, 3 wins, defeat on Wednesday night, largely because Tyrone Mings did a Tyrone Mings thing. But young boys, that's routine, straightforward. Bayern is a great win for them. Bologna 2-0, same as us, and then losing to Club Bruges. And then the other games they've played this season are in the EFL Cup. They beat Wycombe Wanderers in the third round, but then lost to Crystal Palace in the fourth round. So overall, you're looking at 16 games, 9 wins, by far the best of which is the game against Bayern. 3 draws, 4 defeats, 26 goals scored, which is 11 less than us. 19 conceded, though, is the standout number here for me. 19 goals conceded. That is not a defence that is proving watertight. 15 of those goals conceded have come in the Premier League. So they are leaking goals. Their goal difference is just +2, which isn't great. Are you surprised? Is this what you expected? Am I right in thinking that their current position is 6th? Is it because of a soft schedule?
Well, I think it's fair to acknowledge that if their season started with handy games, then win them, basically. You know, same as we did. We got similar sorts of accusations, right? We won games because we had a relatively routine fixture list. And if you are a top 4 like they were last year, or top 6 generally, let's say, side, then yes, you would expect them to win. 2 areas where obviously I tend to look at Aston Villa and say, you know, they fall down a little bit around that. One is Unai Emery away from home. He very, very rarely gets more than, say, 7 to 8 away victories in a season. Now, they have got 3 already this year in 5 games, which is really good. But the only one of those I would say was notable was Fulham, to be honest. A 3-1 win away to Fulham is good, but you can argue that obviously they probably should be beating Ipswich away from home, and they didn't, and then they were absolutely hammered. So 2 additional things to go into that. One is that at this point of the season, maybe for a team that doesn't change around the side that much, fatigue can start setting in, the relentlessness of the fixtures. And the other thing is, about 3-4 weeks ago, probably, I said, I'll retract what I said pre-season about Villa on the basis that this Champions League extended league campaign, if you like, is a load of crap, and they can replicate last season finishing 4th if they focus on Premier League form and just let Europe take its course. They haven't rotated in that. They haven't just played normally. You know, they were sitting top, and it sounds really good when you beat Bayern Munich and all the rest of it, but 3 weeks later, when you're getting absolutely smashed by Spurs, and when you win 1 of 5 Premier League matches because you haven't rotated in midweek, and these players are not used to going game after game after game after game, that's where it's going to cost you. I think if he had have just taken an approach of, let's make sure that we get top, 24 is it? I keep forgetting, 24 or something 24. Stupid, then we'll be fine. We'll take our chances on the playoffs. My feeling is that that's where Aston Villa probably should have gone, and probably will end up regardless of going at full strength, because I don't believe that they are in the best 8 teams in Europe. But now it's costing them domestically as well. So I don't think that like they're in a false position as such or anything like that, but I do think that, for example, them being level on points with Arsenal and Chelsea will not be exactly the same come the end of the season if they are not willing to, let's say, have a bit of sensible approach and have a bit of priority about domestic form. I think that they could be level on points with Chelsea or Arsenal if Arsenal obviously continue the way they have been going, but not if they try and do that across 2 competitions. They don't have the squad for that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Now, I think they've weakened their squad in some unnecessary ways, but I'll come to that. I just look at the remaining Champions League fixtures. They get Juve home next. Juve are weird this year, and they could easily win that comfortably, or Juve could beat them. Like it's there's a wide variance of outcomes on that one because Juve are just a weird team. They go to Leipzig, which, to be fair, Leipzig have been dreadful in the Champions League so far. So I think they'll fancy their chances in that one. They go to Monaco. Monaco have been excellent. Easier path, but they've gotten the results. And then they play Celtic home. There is definitely a path for Villa to finishing in the top 8. But like you said, that could come if they prioritise that. That does come with sacrificing in the Premier League. in the summer, Villa went out, they rebought Cameron Archer, which I really liked that move. And then they sold him again, which I didn't like, but they had to do because of their financial fair play situation. They basically did a swap of, they brought in Lewis Dobbin, who they've loaned out to West Brom, for Tim Orogunam. They signed Ian Maatson, a player I really like, but we haven't seen nearly enough of him this season. And I assume, he's a long-term piece. He's 21, so that's okay. Omar Kadir arrived. Don't know much about the guy. Samuel Illing Jr. and Enzo Baranecchia, they came in the deal for Douglas Luiz. I thought Villa did really well to get both of them. I think there was other players at Juventus they maybe could have targeted, but I really like both of these players. And then they turned around and they loaned both of them out straight away, when I think, certainly with Baranecchia, I think he could have helped them this season, because Boubacar Kamara has missed, he's back now, but he'd missed everything up until about 2 weeks ago, and they were lacking a body in midfield. They signed Ross Barkley. He's been okay, but he's injured now. They bring Jadon Philogene back to the club after a really good spell with Hull. They signed Amadou Onana, who'd been great until about 2 weeks ago, and I feel like the effort of having to do all of the running for both himself and Yuri Tielemans, who just can't run. Like, he trundles, and he covers a lot of ground, but he does it really slowly. I think Onana's just starting to wear down a little bit. All in all, I really liked the business that they did. And even with the sales, I think they got really good money for Douglas Luiz. I think they got great money for Omari Kellyman. I was actually in favour of the decision to sell Moussa Diaby, because it was quite clear that he was, inconsistent and problematic, and it's not a good combination. Overall, I liked their summer, but I didn't like the loans of Illing Jr. and Baranecchia, who could have helped them this year and added to that squad and given them more options and more depth. I didn't understand the decision to loan either of them out. What do you make of the summer signings and how they've performed so far?
I think mostly the same as you, to be perfectly honest. I don't hate some of the work that they did. I'm absolutely in favour of getting rid of Leon Bailey. I think he's capable of being a match winner, but once every 7 games if you're lucky, or maybe 2 or 3 times in 3 or 4 games, and then not again for 2 months. I've never quite taken to him, to be perfectly honest. I think that there's plenty of reason to feel that there's still more than enough in this squad. I've said Leon Bailey, I meant Diaby, obviously. I think there's still plenty in this squad which is capable of fulfilling the excellent parts that he did, like Leon Bailey, like Jacob Ramsey, like Morgan Rogers this season has taken so many leaps forward. And if you were Unai Emery and the coach and staff and seeing that sort of back end of last season or whatever, and you realise we're going to be relying on him more and more this season, then absolutely make that upgrade, get the money in and spend it elsewhere. But like, he was a bit surprised that some of those players who came in straight away left again. We've seen a few rumours that they might be getting Douglas Luiz back in January, because he's not really able to break in ahead of Weston McKennie at Juventus. Whether that happens or not, we'll see. It's not anything like a done deal that he'll just come back and be excellent. I think there's a few strange uses or non-uses of certain players, like Ian Madson's yet to make a Premier League start. I wasn't expecting this in the slightest. Like, I thought even if he wasn't straight in the team ahead of Lucadinho, then at least somewhere along the line you're going to get a start in the Premier League at left back. You're probably going to get the odd start, maybe even further forward in attack. So far, he's been like a League Cup starter for them. So again, that's another example of them not necessarily taking steps forward or utilising the really good depth that they do have in certain areas. Philogene, you mentioned, he's made 1 start this season. I don't know. There's
many red cards as starts.
Well, there's that as well. There is plenty to like about this, but then I see, like, Yuri Tielemans, for example, one part of last season, he was like way out of favour. And now he's started 10 league games out of 10.
Yeah.
Now, that's fine.
Remember
If
last
he's like,
season, around this time, he was already complaining that he wasn't playing enough.
yeah. After like picking Villa for his move, basically, where he was free to choose from quite a few teams. And I get that certain players are obviously you want your core in place for as often as possible. I don't think Tielemans has necessarily been the one who is absolutely immovable in this side or anything like it. Even at the start of the season, like we saw Ollie Watkins come back after the Euros and had a really slow start. John Duran, meanwhile, was plundering a few goals and doing well off the bench. He hasn't made a Premier League start yet this season.
Yeah.
It's like I'm obviously never really able to go completely all out against Unai Emery because I already don't like him to begin with, and it just sounds like I'm being a twat, basically, and saying things for no reason. And I do try to measure that accordingly, but then when I see...
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file, Abbott Diabetes Care, or prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Time to work on your gift list with Black Friday deals at the Home Depot. Right now, get a select tool from top brands like Ryobi and Milwaukee for free when you buy a select battery kit. Choose from reciprocating saws, multi-tools, sanders, and more. Whether you're stocking up on power for your personal workshop or grabbing the perfect gift for someone else's. Get Black Friday tool deals delivered from the Home Depot. Limit 1 per transaction. Exclusions apply. Full eligible tool list in-store and online.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
What to me look like quite obvious things, like a lot of those names that they have in the lineup week after week after week after week, are there regardless of anything. Like Ezri Konsa, for example, has started almost all the games. That's fine because he's really good and he's played either right back or centre back. I think that's good if you're using him according to either how you think the opposition are going to attack down that particular flank, or you really need a bit of extra pace or whatever. So something like that, really, really good. But on the other hand, if that means that you have then got Diego Carlos has made 3 starts in the Premier League this year at centre back. Pau Torres has had 3 different partners, therefore, at centre-back. Ian Maatsen, like we said, hasn't played at all, so you're not rotating both fullbacks in the way that, say, Arne Slot is, for example, or making one of them come off the side. It just seems a real imbalance to me at times. And like you even mentioned, Ross Barkley has done fairly well. He's only started 1 game. Yeah. So he's only started once. Philogene only started once. John Duran hasn't started at all. Maatsen hasn't started at all. Buendia is obviously working his way back, but he hasn't started a league game at all. Boubacar Kamara hasn't yet started a game, assuming he will do at some stage. Tyrone Mings, who you just mentioned, with the interesting interpretation of what defenders and goalkeepers are allowed to do differently in midweek.
Do you think he thought the wind had blown the ball past him?
I honestly have
how did you think the ball had just started rolling along the ground?
Do you know what? I mean, like, it's a penalty, and yes, I think it was the right decision, and stupidity reigned in that exact moment. But it also made me feel annoyed that with an exact replica happening earlier in the season with Gabriel, nothing happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I get that at the time the refs sort of said, like, it was stupidity and I didn't want someone to be published for flouting the rules in such a stupid way, which I disagree with. But then when the exact same thing happens in the exact same competition, it goes the other way. Like, so I get it. I get that it's like, you know, annoying for Tyrone Mings or whatever, but ultimately, stop being dumb. Pay attention.
And Villa fans are up in arms about this as well, because they're showing the clip of Gabriel. The Gabriel one is actually worse, because Mings is not looking at Martinez. Like, Mings is looking out, and the ball rolls in front of him, and he looks down and picks it up. Gabriel is looking at Raya as he passes the ball to him, and he still picks it up.
And like, you would be if you're an Aston Villa fan about being annoyed about that. You absolutely should be, but it doesn't mean it wasn't correct in this instance. It just means the other one was wrong, even more wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Your annoyance should be at Tyrone Mings, not at the referee. The referee did the right thing. Because the referee in the other game did not do the right thing, I can't even remember who Arsenal were playing, but fans of that club...
Bayern, wasn't it?
Was it Bayern? It may have been Bayern. Yeah, it was Bayern in the Champions League last season, the end of last season. Bayern fans should be fuming at that ref. Bayern ended up going through anyway, so it ultimately didn't matter. But yeah, that doesn't take away from the fact your anger should be at Mings for not paying attention. But you are right about this squad. Like, I think there's a lot of talent in this squad. And for now, I don't think he's using it. Like, if we go from back to front, the goalkeeper is very good. Like, Emi Martinez is a very, very good goalkeeper. I don't know if Joe Gauchi's any good. He's only played the 2 games. We know Robin Olsen isn't particularly good, but you're not going to use your backup goalkeeper a ton anyway. So Martinez playing regularly is fine because he's really good. In defence is where I start to have a couple of issues. I really like Ezri Konsa. I like Pau Torres. I think that's a good pairing. I don't like so much what's behind them. I'm not a big Diego Carlos fan, especially post-Achilles tear. I've never been a Mings fan. Lamar Bogard looks promising, but he's 20 years of age and centre-backs tend not to really start to develop to a high level till they're like 22, 23. But he does look promising. They should have invested in a backup centre-back in the summer. But where I take more issue is at full-back. I quite like the look of this Nedeljkovic kid that they brought in January, the Serbian. But he's 18 and he's a backup at the moment. But for me, Matty Cash is really only a backup if you want to be a top 4, top 6 team. I think he's fine if you're a bottom half team. Like, I think he is a Premier League caliber player. I just don't think he's got a place in a team competing at the highest end. And their best right back is Ezri Konsa, who also happens to be their best or second best centre-back. So they need to invest in one or the other. At left-back, Digne is fine. Like, he's good going forward. He's flawed defensively. I really like Maatsen. He's a similar profile. Really good going forward. Flawed defensively. That's fair enough. But there needs to be more rotation at left-back. Because Luca Digne is 31 years of age. And you paid big money for Ian Maatsen. So you need to get the balance better. Digne is going to get run down if you keep playing him as much as you are. And Maatsen's not going to develop if you don't play him more than you're playing him at the moment. There's a strong midfield group there. You've got Onana, you've got Boubacar Kamara back now. I think when those two get situated together as the pairing, I think that's going to be really, really tough to play against. Barkley's good, Tielemans is good, McGinn can play in there, he's fine. Like you said, there's rumours. I mean, there's rumours that Douglas Luiz coming back. Does he get in the team ahead of Onana or Kamara? I don't think he does. So I think it'd be strange for them. They've got Berenetxia to come back next season as well, hopefully, and that'll add to the depth. But for now, I think there's a good group of midfield players there, but we need to see less Yuri Tielemans. Like, that needs to be a mantra around the place, less Yuri Tielemans, because he will wear down. He always does. If you watch Yuri Tielemans at Leicester, he'd have these really good starts to season, then he'd disappear for 3 months, and then he'd come strong again at the end of the year. But it was because he was being overplayed by Brendan Rodgers at the time, and Emery's risking doing the same thing. The reason Tielemans was good at the end of last season is because he barely played in the first half of the season. In the wide areas, you've got John McGinn, who primarily plays off the right. I'm not a huge fan. I think they can do better, but, you know, he is the captain, so whatever. Ramsey off the left, he's yet to recapture the form he had a couple of years ago. The backups to them seem to be Bailey and Philligan, and that's fine. Morgan Rogers has been a revelation. I think he's really good. And him in the 10 is good. The backup there is probably Buendia. Different type of player, obviously, but a good player as well. And then the 2 strikers are both excellent. Ollie Watkins is an excellent centre-forward. And John Duran is one of the best young forward players in world football. And he seems to be like a regen of Adriano. And Villa need to figure out the best way to harness that. Because Ollie Watkins will turn 29 in less than 2 months. He is in his peak. He is the best he's going to be. And they might want to consider, should we cash in on Ollie Watkins? Should we kick the tires on maybe seeing if Chelsea or Arsenal, who are desperate for a number 9, want him? And if we can get good money for him? Because if we can, we should, because we've got this other kid who's 20 years of age. He'll turn 21 about 2 weeks before Watkins turns 29. And if we sell him, which they were rumoured to be going to do all summer, it's not very good long-term planning to be sticking with the 29-year-old and binning off the 21-year-old who's outscoring him this season and looks like has a much higher ceiling ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, there's always got to be that balance of, you know, Duran has done well in limited minutes, but how well is he going to be doing if you give him more game time? How much consistency do you think there is in his game that if you start and suddenly 15 matches, he's going to be able to perform in all of them? Because Watkins does, by and large, if we're being fair, is his type of game, running the channels, stretching defences and so on. He is able to do that even if his goal-scoring touch is not there, for example. So I get that Villa have a big decision on there, but you're right, you can't just overlook what could be a pretty hefty fee. Maybe only 2 summers in a row that you're able to get it, and one was last year and one is this year coming for Ollie Watkins. So you have got to make a pretty big decision there. Look, I think that there's scope in Villa's setup, for example, to use both of them together, but the issue is, not an issue, it's not a problem in the slightest, but the reason for not doing so is Morgan Rogers, like you say, because he is matches-wise of a profile of Ollie Watkins in that he is in the team and has to be in the team right now, but age-wise is obviously much more the profile of Duran. So if Morgan Rogers is doing off-the-ball stuff and midfield stuff that you want, plus doing a lot of attacking stuff that you're also getting from him now, and he's added goals in the last few weeks as well, which previously was probably the one thing he wasn't really doing, you don't necessarily need to play 2 up front. And do you want to go with a 21-year-old in attack along with a 22-year-old behind him? That's also another consideration in team building conversation at the very least. I personally think that if they were to give Duran a lot more opportunity, let's say he's starting 1 out of every 3 league games going forward, and if he does well between now and the end of the campaign, it looks like he would be able to step up, I would be tempted to sell Watkins and bring in a similar age profile, but someone who is obviously going to be second choice to Duran at that point. Yeah. And then spend obviously the difference elsewhere.
Yeah, see, that this is exactly the thing. Like, you do need a player of the Watkins age profile, but if it's a case where Ollie Watkins next summer could net you 50, 55, 60 million, you do that. You sell him because his value is only going to decline sharply, whereas you get the same money for Duran, and Duran obviously is more of an unknown, but Duran's value could sharply increase because of his age and potential. So to move out Watkins to whichever of those London clubs might want him, and then, maybe Ivan Toney wants to come back to England, and maybe you can do a deal there to get him back for like 20 million. And you get a player who's every bit as good as Ollie Watkins, but for a third of the price that you bring in for Watkins. So you still have a very reliable, very good, experienced number 9, same age, I think maybe a little bit older, maybe a couple months older than Watkins. But ultimately, you've balanced your books a lot better as well. I think the future's really bright for Villa, especially when you factor in, the age of a lot of these players. Konza is 27, Pau Torres is 27. That's a really good age for the centre-backs. Nedeljkovic is only 18, Matson's only 22. That's really good. Bogart is only 20. You've got Onana is 23. Boubacar Kamara is 24. Jacob Ramsey is 23. Duran is 20. Rodgers is 22. Philogen is 22. Leon Bailey's only 27, though he's been around forever. But like Illing Jr. comes back, he's only 21. Baronecci comes back, he's only 23. Lewis Dobbin does look a really promising player. He's only 21. They've got that young Kessler Hayden kid that they like. He's a good player at 22. Louis Barry, who, by the way, is having an unreal season for Stockport in League One, having helped them get promoted last year. And I don't know if you remember this, but when Louis Barry was at West Brom as a kid, so was Morgan Rodgers. And those two by themselves are one of the reasons people were looking at the West Brom Academy and saying that they've got another great crop coming through because of these two kids. They both had weird roundabout paths to land at Villa. Barry went to Barcelona, if you remember, then came back, scored against us when they were forced to play a bunch of kids in a cup game because of COVID. He's had a bunch of loans, but he's really promising. And Morgan Rodgers obviously went to City, didn't work out there, had a couple of loans that really didn't go well, and City gave up on him. He went to Borough, he kicked on, showed his level, and landed at Villa. But both of these, have the pedigree of having been very, very highly regarded at 15, 16, 17. Yes, their development didn't go, let's say, the way a Marcus Rashford's went at that age, where he got thrust into a Premier League first team and exploded straight away. But that doesn't mean they can't develop that bit later. So he's another one that maybe becomes an option for them. They've got a very, very good academy at Aston Villa, one of the best in the country. There's a lot of reasons for Villa fans to be very, very happy about the direction of their club. They've got good owners. They're willing to spend money. Even if they take a bit of a step back this year in the league, if they finish 6th, say, but they get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, I would still say that's a great season for Aston Villa. Given where they were 5 years ago, slumming it away, lost in the Championship, to be here now it's a really good turnaround. So there's so many reasons for them to be hopeful, and it's a really good team now that has potential to get better just through development of the talent they have. But I do think the league position this year is a little bit soft. I when I look at the games, they're all games they should win. The 5 they won are games they should win, but they should also be beating Ipswich away and beating United at home. The Bournemouth one I don't have an issue with because I just think they caught Bournemouth in a great run of form. And losing to Arsenal and Spurs, I'm not mad about that because Arsenal pre-season were many people's pick to win the league. And regardless of what people think of Spurs and Villa are on a very similar level. Like, if Spurs didn't have a collapse last year towards the end of the season, they probably get fourth ahead of Villa. Like, it was between the two of them. So they're on a similar level. Losing away to Spurs is not a bad result. The 4-1 is a bit of an embarrassment, but it's not a bad result to lose at Spurs.
No.
But I do just look at it and think, I'm not impressed. You don't have an impressive league result just yet.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.